Welcome. Today we're starting a deep dive into a really interesting concept, trying to see things the way God sees them.
Mhm.
We've got this text that suggests it's not just, theory, but something practical, something that can shift how we believe and, well, how we see life.
Exactly. And the core idea in this source is about aligning our viewpoint, moving away from just our own limited sight towards, well, what it calls a divine perspective.
Right.
And it argues this shift is pretty fundamental for replacing those negative beliefs we all grapple with sometimes.
Yeah, replacing them with something more positive, rooted in these divine principles it talks about.
Precisely.
And I think everyone can relate to feeling stuck,
Yeah.
right? And those negative thoughts or feelings of lack. So that's where this really hits home, I think.
Absolutely. It offers a different lens, a way to maybe navigate those challenges.
So how does the text illustrate this? It must give some examples.
It does. It uses a really vivid story from the Gospels, Mark chapter 3, the man with the withered hand.
Okay, yeah, I remember that. Jesus sees this man, his hand is clearly impaired. But Jesus says, what was it?
He tells him, stretch out your hand.
Right. Straight to the potential, not focusing on the limitation that everyone else saw.
That's the key point the text draws out. Jesus, it suggests, saw the possibility, the potential for wholeness, even when the visible evidence was disability.
So seeing beyond the immediate problem.
Seeing through it, perhaps, to God's potential for healing, for restoration. It's seeing with different eyes, essentially.
Okay, so it's not just about like miraculous physical healing then.
No, not at all. The text really broadens it out. It applies the same principle to, well, all sorts of struggles. Financial lack, fear, guilt.
Addiction, sin, those kinds of things.
Exactly. Those areas where we might feel weak or defeated. The text suggests God's view isn't one of, judgment in that moment, but one that holds healing, grace, and power superabounding, even right there in the weakness.
Okay, so that's the divine perspective, but how do we make that shift? That seems like the hard part.
Well, the text suggests it's possible, that we can actually consciously choose to look beyond our natural limitations, to start trying to see God's grace working, even in those really tough spots.
It's like actively looking for it.
Kind of, yeah. The text uses the phrase press in, like actively envision God's abundance, his grace, right in the middle of the difficulty.
And it connects this to Scripture, doesn't it? I think you mentioned 2 Corinthians.
That's right, 10 Corinthians 12:9. My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. That's a powerful verse in this context.
So weakness isn't the end of the story.
Not according to this perspective. It's actually presented as an opportunity, like an invitation to offer up that weakness and see it potentially transformed into strength. It reframes the whole thing.
Okay, so it really boils down to belief then. What we choose to focus on. Are we seeing with just our natural eyes the problem?
Or are we intentionally trying to adopt this other view, this faith perspective, believing in a different outcome, a different reality based on divine potential?
But what about negative thoughts? They still come up, right? You can't just switch them off.
Oh, absolutely. The text acknowledges that. Negative thoughts, difficult feelings, they're part of life. They'll arise.
So what's the strategy then?
The emphasis is on where you anchor yourself. Anchoring your thoughts and emotions, not necessarily in the feelings themselves, but in these divine principles, these promises.
Okay, so if I'm worried about money, I consciously bring to mind a promise about provision, for example.
That's the idea. You consciously redirect. You focus on believing rightly about who you are in relation to the divine and what's been promised. It's an active process.
And the text claims that this actually changes things internally.
Yes.
Yes.
The more you sort of learn and really believe in that divine love, those promises, the more your thinking starts to naturally align with it. It's not just positive thinking, it's aligning with a different truth.
And this leads to...
Well, the text points towards outcomes like those described in Jeremiah 29:11, thoughts of peace, not evil, hope, a future. By aligning your beliefs, your thoughts start to reflect that hope, that peace, instead of, anxiety or despair. It's presented as truly transformative.
So wrapping this part up, the main takeaway seems to be this power we have to choose our perspective, to consciously look beyond the immediate issue.
Yeah, and to anchor our belief in this idea of divine grace, of God's potential, rather than just getting stuck in the current reality.
Okay, so here's something maybe for our listeners to think about. Take one specific challenge you're facing right now, just one, and ask yourself, what might it look like, really look like, if you saw that situation through this lens we've been discussing? A lens of, say, unlimited grace and genuine potential for good.
Yeah, that's a powerful question. What would that perspective shift actually look like in practice? And maybe even, what's one small step that view might inspire you to take? Just something to mull over.